Welcome to Legend 64, an N64 inspired indie game I'm making in Unreal Engine.
In this devlog, I'm going to show you the creation of the game's latest enemy.
The Manticore, a terrifying beast that roams the Neverworld, preying on unsuspecting souls. In mythology, I find manticores particularly intimidating. I mean, it's a freaking lion with a giant scorpion tail and bat wings. What more could you possibly want? The human face gives it an otherworldly appearance, so it felt like a fitting enemy to add to the Neverworld. The model is just under 700 triangles, which I'm quite pleased with for a creature of this size. I've gone for a more animalistic appearance with the texture design, although I've tried to retain some human features like the hair and nose. The rig ended up being quite complex. It's derived from the Rigify cat rig, however I had to make a lot of modifications in order to get it to work how I wanted. The wings in particular were tricky to set up, but I was able to create some pretty decent flapping animations. I'm excited to show it off in game, so let's get to it. I'm no longer using the behavior tree to handle my enemy AI. Instead, I'm using functions coded directly in the blueprint. You may know that I've added the ability to pause enemies during encounters. This relies on event timers, and for whatever reason, these do not play nicely with the behavior tree. Rather than scrapping this feature, I've made the decision to completely phase out the behavior tree from enemy AI implementation. The creature's movement is controlled through the AI Move To node. Anywhere that is green, a nav mesh has been created, and the Manticore can move within it to reach the player. Using a nav mesh is a really easy way of creating a traversable space for the enemy to move around in, and I intend to utilize this for all of the Manticore's movements. I've added the ability for it to prowl around the player. Depending which side of the beast you are standing on, it will either start pacing to the right or to the left. The idea is that it will match the player's movement and stalk you wherever you go as it deliberates what to do next. All the while, it will try and maintain an equal distance away from you as you move about, and on occasion it will change direction if you move to a different side. Here's a top-down view. You can see how it immediately begins to circle the player character, and when I move, it will attempt to match me and resume circling at the same distance as before. Whilst making this, I had one major objective in mind, and that was to not create the jarring effect of simply rotating the Manticore in place to face the player. I really care about details like this, and I believe giving my own enemies seamless turning animations will only enhance the game's overall quality and immersion. To achieve this, I've created a dynamic system that constantly monitors the player's position relative to the Manticore. Using this information, combined with the animations I've created for it in Blender, the creature smoothly adjusts its orientation to directly face the player, whether it be a small increment or a complete 180-degree turn. The player character now has a dodge roll added to their repertoire, which gives them additional movement options during combat. You can roll in any direction when you press the relevant button, and when in Z-targeting mode, you can roll from side to side or directly backwards at a slightly faster pace. I've made a jump attack that the Manticore can use to hop towards the player, and you can use the roll to quickly dodge out of the way. But in all honesty, as long as you keep moving, you can avoid getting hit indefinitely.
Finding the right balance of difficulty is something I'm going to be working on a lot in the coming months. So at the moment, it doesn't feel as amazing as it could, but this is all part of the game development process, and I'm going to try and improve as I go.
I've also given it the ability to strike at you with its tail. I mean, this is the most prominent feature on the monster, so I'd like it to use the tail quite a bit. The stinger can be locked onto, and I'm planning on making this a weak spot that will inflict extra damage to the Manticore if hit. Just be careful not to get hit yourself though. The character fights by swinging their lantern around and unleashing the powerful spirit contained within. To give the weapon greater visual impact, I've baked lighting effects into the material that will activate whenever the lantern is swung about. Here you can see the effect in action. The intensity of the illumination is based on the distance away from the camera. Only selected parts of the mesh are illuminated to create a dramatic lighting effect from swinging the lantern about. The effect is being activated every time I swing the lantern in close proximity to the Manticore. Ah, that scared me. I didn't realize I had damage enabled. Whoops. Alright, now it's time to make some aerial movement. So I'm going to bring the nav mesh into the sky, and that'll let me move the creature... Oh.
Nav meshes don't work in the sky. You thought Unreal Engine was going to let you do easy aerial movement?
See, the nav mesh works by projecting itself onto surfaces, so if there's no surface in the sky, then there's nowhere for it to project onto. And so the AI Move To node will no longer work, meaning I'll have to come up with my own custom solution to get aerial movement. I eventually did find a way to make it work using code, but it was very time consuming. At last, it's finally time to make this thing take off and fly.
I don't think he's coming back.
Another huge problem I was facing was determining when to make the Manticore land from a dive. The problem is dependent on the height the creature takes off from. Based on this, it will attempt to land at an altitude relative to the height it started diving. To fix this, I went to some lengths to create a system that is constantly checking the Manticore's height from the ground when flying. To demonstrate, I've placed a red Manticore at ground level. Above that is the blue Manticore sitting at 30 meters, and far above him is the green Manticore at 50 meters. At 100 meters we have the golden Manticore, and all the way at the top we have the purple Manticore at double the height with an impressive 200 meters. The challenge is to make them stop at the 5 meter mark, so let's see if they land at the same altitude. Finishing first we have the red Manticore, closely followed by the blue one, with green hot on its heels. Approaching fast, the golden Manticore stops gracefully at the 5 meter mark to join its compatriots. And lastly, descending from the heavens, we have the purple Manticore to complete the set. A resounding success. Let's celebrate by making them land together in unison.
That was a lot of fun.
I'm using a calculation-based approach to determine where the Manticore can move when in the air. The benefit of doing this is that the creature will move at a consistent speed regardless of its height from the ground. When compared to the alert-based movement approach, you can see how the Manticore will take longer to descend to the ground when it's further away. This is especially important if the Manticore is high up in the sky, as it will drop to the ground like a meteor if not done correctly. The calculation approach ensures graceful movement while it's in the air. And this works the same for horizontal movements to ensure the Manticore moves correctly in the sky when following the player, for example.
Thank you for watching. I had a lot of fun making this one, but it was definitely a challenge for sure. If you like this project, please consider checking out my Patreon page where I post behind the scenes updates and more in-depth breakdowns. Alright, let's fight this thing.
I'd like to thank all of my patrons for continuing to support me and the project, and an extra special thank you to these 64-bit legends. LRC Napkin, Mario Tavalieri, Oliver Honleyken, Yaya Damboos, Mason Stooksbury, Matt Papa, Waro Duck, Melty Metroid, Daniel H. Hernandez, Starkium, Power Hungry Fool, Nicola Wallen, Bleak Bob, Twyla27, Robert M. Stwali IV, Baby Funky Kong, Unseeing Eyes, Void Kitten, Shinku Aura, Zachary Mabius, Eric, Kanzen Sun, Angius, Bo Eckle, Great Mate, Gustav64, A Grumpy Fox, Joel Acklin, Yawning Bear, Ezra Brunziel, Alex McVicker, Zombotic, Cole Walcott, Gnuff, Cassidy, Austin Linguist, Sock Poppet, I Eat Maps, Something Something, Coldrad, Malachi Sigmund, Sebastian Soderquist, Nehey Ray, Ritzler, Jackie Mars, MMD Lloyd, Cypher Rex, Cormac, Andy Crew Gaming, Mr. Joey Prosa, Atom Bomb Bryant, Tava, Hi Parker, Duncan Famel, Parker Holly, Lingster777, Max Kusari, and Selasimus. Thank you so much. And of course, thank you to my 16-bit patrons as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next devlog.